Buried treasures. John Travolta is a witness to murder in Blowout. Peter O'Toole collides with the golden age of live television in My Favorite Year. Robert De Niro is obsessed with stardom in The King of Comedy. And Terry Garr and Frederick Forrest yearn for love in One from the Heart. All these and more are coming up next on Siskel and Ebert and the Movies.
Oh, sure.
I am keeping you separated like this so we don't have any more of that delinquent behavior that we have had in the past. Is that clear? Sit down. Copy this information down.
Believe it or not, that is Sylvester Stallone, before Rocky, way back in 1974 in The Lords of Flatbush, one of the funniest and best and earliest movies he ever made. And it's one of the buried treasures you might be able to find on the bottom shelf of your local video store. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. This week on a special edition of our show, we're going to have one of those programs where we explore the dusty back shelves of your local video store where the owners keep tapes they almost wish they hadn't stocked. Tapes nobody seems to rent, and yet tapes of movies that we think are pretty good. And I'm going to start with a comedy that featured a number of young actors that would go on to be major stars. Perry King from TV's Riptide got top billing over a couple of guys named Henry Winkler and Sylvester Stallone, as Roger said, in 1974. The film, The Lords of Flatbush, a sweet and very funny slice of Brooklyn street life with comically tough guys and, get this, even tougher girls. For example, my favorite scene, Stallone's girlfriend, played by Maria Smith, tries to convince the reluctant Stallone to buy her an engagement ring.
I'm saving for a car.
You're
I'm saving for a car.
You know, that's all you ever think of is money, money, money. You know something? I don't think I'm going to even let you marry my girlfriend.
Hey, listen to me, Daddy-O. Listen to me. Hey, you got one of those rings, the thing you take out for 10 days and you bring back.
I don't want it for 10 days, Stanley. I want it forever.
You know what I mean? It's a 10-day ring. Do you have one back there?
I love you. Buy me that ring.
I love you. Buy me that ring. Man, that's just great writing. For me, that scene ranks with Zero Mostel screaming and Mel Brooks as the producers, I want that money. It's a primal howl, as is a lot of The Lords of Flatbush. Sort of, actually, a Saturday Night Fever without the dancing. Wonderful film.
You know what I thought of when I looked at that clip? I thought, once again, of how good Sylvester Stallone was and how good he could be again if he could free himself from the straitjacket and the rigidity of the superhero that Rocky and Rambo have turned into. Because as a comedian, as a fast-talking, funny street guy, he was fabulous. And also in the first Rocky movie.
Yeah, I agree.
My first overlooked video is going to be one of the best action pictures of recent years, one of Hollywood's top action stars, and yet I don't think many people noticed this movie unless they were Chuck Norris fans. The name of the movie is Code of Silence, and it stars Norris as a Chicago cop who tries to break a case involving a crooked policeman and some other members of the force who are trying to cover up for him. The movie has absolutely sensational stunts like this one on top of an elevated train. It's always amazing to me when you can see, absolutely see, that that's really Chuck Norris, and he's really on top of the train. And I couldn't see any belts or safety nets anywhere either. I hope they were around somewhere. As good as that sequence is, Code of Silence is not simply a series of action scenes. Unlike most recent cop movies, and certainly totally unlike most of Chuck Norris's movies, this one contains a lot of interesting characters, offbeat people who are allowed to have a few of their own scenes and develop their own personalities and make the story more three-dimensional. Code of Silence is a reminder of a time when cop movies were about people instead of about special effects.
That's a very good line about people, because the one that turned the whole cop movie around was French Connection back in '72, I think it was, '71, and they got away from it. They went into Miami Vice, hyper special effects and imploding characters and all this. Get them out on the street, get them in the action. It's a tough job. Let the men do it.
That's right. And even though we had some stunts, as for example the train chase there, at least this movie is not all chases, not all explosions, not all shootouts. I get so tired of this scene, you know, where they're going to blow somebody away. This movie had people in it, and Chuck Norris was very good in it.
Very good. Coming up next, John Travolta investigating a crime in Blowout, and Peter O'Toole trying to stay sober and do a TV show in my favorite year.
Wonderful to be alive.
My next choice for an overlooked video is Blowout, a 1981 movie by Brian De Palma, who specializes in crime and suspense in the bizarre and has never filmed a more intricate plot than this one. The movie stars John Travolta as a motion picture sound man who is recording some sounds and taking some photos late one night when he accidentally records what looks like a road mishap. A young woman is involved and a powerful official is killed, and as Travolta plays his tapes again and again, a tantalizing mystery seems to be hiding there just beyond the range of his eyes and ears. In this scene, he tries to convince a skeptical cop.
A bang?
Yes, some sort of a bang.
Where?
I'm not sure where.
You were facing the car?
Yes.
Well, you heard the blowout.
Yes, I heard the blowout, but the first sound I heard was a bang.
This is kind of an echo.
No. Look, I know what an echo sounds like. I'm a sound man. And the bang was before the blowout.
What were you doing up there?
I was recording sounds for a movie I'm working on.
You recorded the accident?
Yes.
Well, what happened after that?
Well, then the car went off the road into the creek, and I ran
What did you do then?
I'm trying to tell you what I did. I ran down, jumped in the creek, and pulled out the girl.
There was a girl?
Yes, there was a girl.
What girl?
The girl that I brought here, the girl in the room.
Obviously, there are some parallels there with the Chappaquiddick incident. When Blowout was first released, it didn't get very good reviews, and one of the complaints was that De Palma was ripping off Blow Up, that classic 1966 film by Michelangelo Antonioni. I don't think so. Blowout is more of a traditional thriller. The mystery does have a solution. All the clues are right there in front of us.
I like it too, Roger. And looking at that scene of an early Travolta, if you will, and the early scene of Stallone, I think, again, here is a street guy who has gotten into become a superstar, and he's lost that street life that we find so entertaining. I felt that this guy was actually in danger, and that's critical for a thriller. And lately he's been in very safe PG and PG-13 rated films. Here's in a tough picture. It was a good little thriller. Not as great as The Conversation, also involving tapes and a sound man, but a good one nonetheless.
A good film. You know, when people rent videotapes, sometimes they program a double feature. I would program Blowout with FX, which was the thriller about a special effects man. So you got the sound guy, the special effects guy, both trying to use their trades in order to solve a crime.
And if you want to see a better one, see The Conversation.
Gee, well, I hope you are going to select that for later on the show, right?
I'm not, but maybe I will in another show that we do.
Okay, well, I'm always happy to help out with these late thoughts that you have occurring to you after you're already in midstream.
Late thoughts that you have. Here's another comedy from me. My favorite year is the story of a young comedian's initiation of the world of live TV. Mark Lynn Baker plays the beginning writer, first assigned to keeping a guest star, Peter O'Toole, sober for 1 week. Tough job. So he takes him to his working-class Jewish home where his folks are just bowled over by meeting a superstar, even a tipsy one.
Mr. Swan, may I present my mother, Mrs. Belle May Steinberg Carroca of Brooklyn, New York, and Miami Beach, Florida, for 2 weeks each and every winter.
Benjamin, why didn't you tell me your mother was so lovely?
For me?
No, for me.
Mr. Swan.
Alan, please. What may I call you?
How about yours? Oh, Alan, on behalf of everyone here, I would like to welcome you to our humble chapeau.
2 years at the Sorbonne, she still gets it wrong.
Welcome to my humble chapeau. Classic line. Lady Kazan, so funny as the overbearing mother. My favorite year received a lot of acclaim for its show business scenes and that exciting concluding scene of the live TV program that could be ruined if Peter O'Toole doesn't manage to stand up throughout the whole show. But I picked that scene because it was really a complete movie, pausing to give us the background of his other major character, the young man, who was inspired, by the way, by Mel Brooks's experience working on Sid Caesar's classic Your Show of Shows. My favorite year, a wonderful little film full of big laughs and great nostalgia for TV's golden age.
And I agree with you. It was directed by Richard Benjamin.
Yes.
It was directed well, and it was a very, very funny movie. And Peter O'Toole was fabulous because, in a way, only he had to play this guy way over the top. He is grand. He walks into a room, he doesn't stumble. He does a complete tumble all over the table and onto the floor and winds standing up again. And the physical comedy in this movie is just as funny as the verbal comedy. It's good from beginning to end.
And yet, there is an affection for the material rather than just a mere string of jokes.
That's right. Coming up next, Jeremy Irons falls in love with his best friend's wife in Betrayal, and Robert De Niro wants to be a star in The King of Comedy.
Of course, I envy you. I hate you, but I envy you.
On Buried Treasures in your local video store, I have a third comedy to recommend, The King of Comedy, although this one is a little darker than the others. Directed by Martin Scorsese, it's a meditation on the American mad dash for fame, the acquisition of which often leaves one empty. It's the story of Rupert Pupkin, one of those wacky New York autograph hounds who dreams of meeting his idol, a talk show host played by Jerry Lewis. Rupert also dreams of hosting his own show. He wants his turn in the spotlight. And in the film's most chillingly funny scene, we see Rupert in his basement with his mother upstairs, rehearsing for his big fantasy, hosting his own talk show.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You look wonderful. And, yeah, I know. You look wonderful, too, Jerry. I wasn't leaving you out. Right? Yeah. Oh, Jerry, I love this guy. Always coming up with these great lines. I love him. I love him. He's wonderful. You're wonderful. I say, I don't know what I'd do without you.
Rupert,
Anyway.
the bus is here. It's early. Try to be on time for once.
I can't believe this. I gotta go now. Yeah, I gotta catch a bus. Jerry, take care of yourself. Baby, be good. Good luck in Rio.
You know, I see that, Roger, and I think De Niro did not get an Oscar nomination for that role because it wasn't a likable character. It's a great De Niro performance. It's a fabulous film. And I must say, I wasn't really onto this one when it first came out. I liked it, but not as much as I like it now, because look at how it portrays the banality of TV talk shows, a very timely subject today, wouldn't you say? David Letterman tries to have fun with that same concept every night, but no one has skewered the empty host, empty guest syndrome better than director Martin Scorsese. The King of Comedy was too downbeat for some, but it's a daring film that really grows on you after repeated viewing.
And in my case, that's exactly the same story. The first time I saw the film, it was so cold and so disturbing that I think I resisted it. I felt, wait a minute, this is by Scorsese, it's got De Niro in it, I'm going to go back and look at it again. I looked at it the second time, and I said, I'll give it a favorable review. Then, what has happened over the last couple, 3 years is that the Rupert Pupkin character, just like Travis Bickle in their movie Taxi Driver, has gotten under my skin and has become kind of a basic movie character, a basic statement on that kind of person. And I now feel that this movie is even better than I ever thought it was. It's a very difficult film that has to grow on you. That's why video is a good thing, gives you another chance.
Absolutely. Take that chance.
Okay, my next movie is a choice that starts out seeming very strange and ends up seeming very sad. So maybe it's sort of like The King of Comedy in that respect. My choice is called Betrayal, and it's the story of a love triangle, a woman who cheats on her husband to have an affair with his best friend. The film stars Ben Kingsley, the Oscar winner from Gandhi, as the husband, and in this scene, Kingsley tries to control his anger after having just found out that Jeremy Irons has been sleeping with his wife.
I'm a bad publisher because I hate books. Or to be more precise, prose. Or to be even more precise, modern prose. I mean, modern novels. First novels and second novels. All that promise and sensibility it falls upon me to judge, to put the firm's money on, and then to push for the third novel, see it done, see the dust jacket done, see the dinner for the National Literary Editors done, see the signing in Hansard's done, see the lucky author cook himself to death, all in the name of literature. You know what you and Emma have in common? You love literature. I mean, you love modern prose literature. I mean, you love the new novel by the new Casey or Spinks. It gives you both a thrill.
You can see there the quality of the performances in Betrayal and the quality of the writing, which is by Harold Pinter, the British playwright. What you can't guess from that scene is that the whole story is told backwards. The movie starts at the end, after that affair has been over for 2 years, and then every scene takes place before the one it follows. It's more than just an experiment. It's very sad because unlike most movie love stories, in this one, the audience knows more in every single scene about what's going to happen than the lovers do.
And here's another thing, Roger. It's a terrific film. Most stories involving cheating have to have the players be sort of sweet and nice and someone gets dumped on and all this. These are all sharp people. This is pitched very high, written at a very high intelligent level. As a result, they're playing it for very hard stakes. Somebody's trying to fool somebody, and they got to be real smart about it. So this movie crackles with the kind of tension that you don't normally get in this kind of affair.
And it gives you, because of Pinter's backwards screenplay, it gives you a kind of a double whammy that's very fascinating, because they're cheating on each other not only physically,
yes,
but intellectually, because they have an intellectual pact that
yes,
they're violating, and yet at the same time the audience already knows the ending of the story, the sadness, the desolation, the despair. And so what's funny is that while these people think they have it all figured out, what's happening to them is doubly poignant for everybody in the audience, because we know what's coming next.
Okay, coming up next on our show, Class of 1984, a high school gang drama, and also One from the Heart, a love story fantasy from the director of The Godfather.
A lot of times I don't feel like making love, Hank, and I do it for you.
My next overlooked video is called The Class of 1984, and I guess it should fall in the class of guilty pleasures, movies you're almost ashamed to admit that you liked. And yet this movie has energy and a lot of force and a certain amount of wacko humor, and I'm sure that Gene agrees.
No.
It takes place in a high school that is terrorized by student hoodlums, and in this scene, a teacher fights back.
What are you doing?
I'm teaching. Can't you see that? You. Tell us the factor for the female of the species. Stand up when the teacher talks to you.
Wait a minute, Jerry.
Andrew. I don't come into your class and tell you how to teach now. What is the answer, please? Well, you simply cannot afford to fail this class. Now, what is the answer? What is the answer? Oh, please. Why? What? You see how simple it is?
New teaching methods there by Roddy McDowell as the teacher with a gun, and Perry King from Riptide as the other teacher. And there's a trivia question for you. Which of our shows reviewed 2 Perry King movies? Vincent Van Patten is very convincing in this film as the leader of the Hoods. Class of 1984 may be a violent teenage exploitation picture, maybe, but it's not a bad one, and it's not a dumb one. It tries to be more than it seems, and it's a very effective thriller, no matter what anybody says.
Yeah, I love when you point, not a dumb one, and they know where you're pointing.
Yeah, goodness knows that you never point on the show.
I just thought it was routine. I mean, I thought it was...
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there was Fast Times from Ridgemont High was better than this one, and that's the one
I know, I think you're really, if you remember it correctly, and obviously I don't think you do, this movie has a real high energy level and a real drive from beginning to end. It was directed by Mark Lester, and I felt that he had a real touch for this material. And that's really what I thought. I've said really 6 times now, and all you do is look at me. As if I'm an automatic pilot, I recommend the film. If you're gonna rent a teenage exploitation film, rent a good one. That's my stand.
Yeah, and I just came up with a better one, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which, by the way, I didn't think was all that good either. Go with I'm just saying that this is a tremendous category. Go with Breakfast Club. Go with American Graffiti. These are much better films.
Well, I'm going to do that on another program.
Yeah.
With the same program on which you're going to do.
Yeah, no, that was a mistake. You just made a mistake. Admit it. My last video rental pick is from way back on the shelf. Francis Coppola's much maligned One from the Heart, the story of a troubled young couple in Las Vegas, Frederick Forrest and Terry Garr, and the fantasies that keep them alive. The love story is as depressing as it can be. That's why the film wasn't very popular. But their fantasies, I think, are exciting and poetic, including Frederick Forrest's obsession with Nastasia Kinski. It includes this extraordinary scene in his Las Vegas junkyard. Is she real or fantasy? Well, she's as mysterious and as mesmerizing as almost anything captured on film, even that famous peacock in Fellini's Amarcord. A thing of beauty, poignantly chased by an unhappy man. One from the Heart received a chorus of boos when it was first released in 1982, but I've seen it again, and the fantasies, including Terry Garr's fantasy, played by Raul Julia, are touching, and I'm predicting that this film will have a long life if only you rent it. Please rent this movie. It's better.
Please rent this movie or we'll shoot this dog. I didn't like One from the Heart very much. I didn't think it had enough heart. I felt that this entire movie was done in Francis Coppola's head. And that in later movies, for example, Peggy Sue Got Married, in most of his movies came from the heart. Ironically, the one that said it was from the heart wasn't. It was an exercise in special effects, in special backdrops, in special lighting, in special tricks of perspective. It was an exercise in everything except the characters.
No, and I'm saying that those characters were tough to handle, but their fantasies were beautiful. Will you rent this one again for me, and I'll rent Class of '84? If I rent Class of '84, will you rent this?
Gee, I'd rather rent Class of '84 again for me.
No, you're
Now
wrong.
Here's another look at my overlooked cassettes, the tapes on the back shelf. I recommend Code of Silence, the high-style Chuck Norris cop movie, Blowout by Brian De Palma, starring John Travolta, Betrayal, the love story told backwards, and Class of 1984, because if you're going to rent a violent teenage exploitation film, you might as well rent a good one.
And my rental suggestions began with 3 different comedies. The Lords of Flatbush with the young Sylvester Stallone and Henry Winkler. Also Peter O'Toole, so funny in my favorite year. And Robert De Niro, brilliant once again as a loner in The King of Comedy. And finally, a poignant romance. Francis Coppola is wrongly abused, I think. One from the Heart. The one that I would rent right now, King of Comedy.
I think I'd like to go out and get Betrayal and King of Comedy.
That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with reviews of 4 more new movies. And until then, the balcony is closed.